they have very narrow ear canals, and I'm just starting off with the left ear. And this wax dead skin plug, it extends all the way from the entrance. We're just at the entrance here, all the way to the patient's eardrum. They have got very narrow ear canals as well. I initially inserted a Zollner suction probe, and as soon as I touched the surface of the wax, it was just too solid, too hard. There was no suction grip. So what I've done immediately is to use an ear hook, and I'm quite literally trying to chisel my way through this wax, hence the name of the video, an ear excavation, because it felt like an excavation. I was having to use multiple instruments ranging from an ENT ear hook, so St. Bart's ear hook as we call it in the UK, to a Jobson horn, also known as a curette, and crocodile forceps, and also microsuction. And we're just chiseling from the entrance of the ear canal to more or less the patient's eardrum. So I would say that there was a lot of earwax, but also I think this is partly keratosis obturans. There's a lot of dead skin that had just died and shed and remained in the ear, and that will be more visible in the second ear, in the right ear. And if you wait till the end of the video, you'll see some still images of all the wax and dead skin are removed from the ear. And given the amount of debris I removed, one would assume that it was predominantly dead skin, because with dead skin it can coil and ribbon and curl and compress in the ear, whereas earwax, it can't do that as much. And for that reason, when you see the quantity, it must have been a lot of dead skin. Some of it is visible, as you can see the ribbons, but a lot of the dead skin had almost crystallized and formed into a plug, and it oxidized. You can see we're making some headway, but we've still got a long way to go. And this plug of dead skin, it's strongly packed in the ear. And what we're trying to do is elevate, retract the plug off the canal wall to mobilise it. So we're just on the front part of the ear canal at the moment. You can just see how strongly adhered this plug of skin and wax is to the canal wall. I'm just using a Jobson horn, just trying to embed the hollow spoon into this plug and slowly bring forwards, but it's only taking out little chunks of this plug. It's not coming out in a big piece as yet. Because of the colour of the wax and dead skin, it's very similar to the patient's skin tone, therefore is somewhat camouflaged, which makes it more difficult in the sense where we're not able to distinguish the canal wall from the wax and skin plug as well. And of course we don't want to be inadvertently bumping into the canal wall and putting pressure on the canal wall accidentally, so we just have to be a bit more careful in that respect. So I've just put some drops in. Now the patient had been using drops, I believe, for the last few weeks, but this plug and skin, it's just too hard. It's very likely that the drops hadn't penetrated. Instead, it just sat at the surface and drizzled out of the ear. So just going back in with the hook, I did attempt microsuction, but once more, it was very ineffective. So I'm just trying to embed the hook into the plug and then turn the hook clockwise by about 90 degrees to get some purchase, and then slowly bring the hook forward. You can just see it there though, it's just tearing pieces out of this plug. It's so tightly packed and condensed. It's very difficult to remove this in one piece. Now, if this plug wasn't as densely packed and compressed, you're more likely to be able to remove it in one solid piece. But the fact that it's so strongly adhered and occluding, the hook itself isn't strong enough, and it's just chiseling little pieces out. So I think I just reverted back to the Jobson horn. Now we are making some headway. So I'm just placing the hook. This is more on the centre of the ear canal, and I'm just manoeuvring the hook against the back part of the ear canal. When I'm bringing the hook back, the Jobson horn out, I'm going with the curvature of the ear, so you've got this bend. I'm just going to put the hook a bit further into the ear now. And when I'm extracting the hook, I'm just going to be careful that the tip of the hook is not making contact with the bony kind of part of the canal. So I could quite easily graze and abrase and cause trauma to the ear canal. So I'm just using the hook here just to separate the skin plug and wax plug from the front part of the ear canal. I'm just using some forceps because it's a nice piece that I can purchase onto, but I think it's still very strongly adhered and it's very hard to even use forceps to pull this out. Best way to think about this plug is, imagine we put some super glue around the surface of the plug, and that then stuck to the canal wall, and that's what this skin does. The skin can act like double-sided sticky tape. It's not only so strongly adhered to the canal wall, but it's also strongly adhered to the wax plug. I'm just trying to use the Jobson horn now to elevate and lift this dead compressed skin off the back part of the ear canal. And then now we're at the roof of the ear canal. I'm just trying to glide it in, the hook, in and behind, and typically you would hope when I'm bringing this forward it comes out a bit clear. That was a fair sizable chunk, but I was hoping that all of it will come out in one go, but it didn't, so we just have to persist and continue, patience. So again, I'm just using the Jobson horn just to trying to raise this adhered plug off the canal wall, just to separate it, to mobilise it. And although I managed to do that, when I'm trying to extract the pieces out of the ear, it only came out in little pieces. And once again, we're just deeper in the ear now. So we are making some headway, we are tunnelling through, we are excavating deeper into the ear. But this is what I mean about the colour. It's so similar to the colour of the canal wall. It's hard to differentiate. So I just had to be really careful there, because it was hard to tell whether the correct into the canal wall or the wax, because it's so similar in colour. So just revert it back to the forceps, just to try to lift the skin off the base of the ear canal. There was a little tail there, something for me to grab onto. So once more, back in with the Jobson horn. I'm now just separating this from the front part of the ear canal. So we're going full circle. I started off at the bottom of the ear canal, then to the back part of the ear canal, then to the roof, and then to the front of the ear canal. So we're going around in almost circles. See there, I'm really trying to lift this off the bottom of the ear canal, separate it, and then almost come back the other way and scoop it out once it's detached. So far I've used all the array of ENT micro-instrumentation. We've tried microsuction, we've used forceps, we've used Jobson horn and ear hook quite a lot. And again, I'm just trying to get underneath this now. I've got a bit more purchase now, and I can go a bit deep. You can see the bottom part of the ear canal. I've separated this plug from the base of the ear canal, and I've just managed to embed the hollow spoon of the curette into the skin plug and slowly manoeuvre it outwards. So a big piece came out there. Still some medial impacted dead skin, so I'm just going in with the microsuction now again. You can see this thickened skin at the base of the ear canal. It's really a thick, quite a fresh layer. You can tell by the colour, it's quite white in appearance. The longer the skin is in the ear, similar to earwax, it oxidizes and it turns from almost a whitish appearance to a dark black. Now, I distinctly remember the patient telling me that they could hear so much better already, and me having to remind the patient, or advise the patient, should I say, that they've still got a tremendous amount of blockage in their ear, and it's going to get even better. And you can see I'm just using microsuction just to really loosen this off the canal wall, and as I am, I'm coming forwards, laterally towards the entrance of the ear, so I'm just manoeuvring this out of the ear slowly but surely. So we're near the entrance now. As we can see the hairs, the cilia, so these are located on the outer third of the ear canal. So during the procedure, all the instruments had their pivotal role to play. They all assisted each other and myself to be able to remove this out of the young lady's ear. There we are, that's a huge piece there. It's almost like a cigar shape. That's the patient's eardrum, nice and healthy, just some dead skin at the roof of the ear canal. We're just going to go back in for that. Again, just going to use microsuction just to detach this. To advise the patient to attend a lot more regularly. They've been suffering this for a while. We joke that the eardrum probably hasn't seen sunlight for the last decade or so. So just that dead skin at the bottom, just using a fine end just to see if I can peel this. Now, it was quite strongly adhered, so I've removed as much as I can. And just some of the skin wasn't ready to be removed, so we just leave that there. We don't try to work the skin too much where it's just strongly attached. You have to let nature do its work as well and let the skin shed itself a bit and detach itself before we can fully remove it. So this is just one ear done. We've got another ear which is just as bad. So this is the patient's right ear, and again you can just see this plug is almost visible. It's sticking out the ear almost, where it bypasses and other people can visualize it, and it's exactly the same as the patient's left ear. The surface is crusted, so it's just gone straight in with the ear hook. This ear was perhaps a bit more narrower as well. So we're just gliding the hook into the ear at the posterior part of the ear canal, the back, and it just got a nice chunk out there. So I'm just gliding it to the front part of the ear canal now. I'm going to then rotate the hook clockwise just to remove this plug. So probably about 0.5 centimetre into the ear now. It's just rock solid, you can see, and I've managed to glide the hook quite far into the ear there. I've just rotated it and I'm slowly bringing it forwards. On some occasions, however, the hook, instead of removing the plug in the large chunks, it just dissected it, which still served a purpose because it then made it mobilise that piece, so I can remove that. So I'm just using a Jobson horn now, just for more surface area. I've managed to glide it over the roof of the ear canal. I'm into the core of this wax and skin. I'm just then slowly extracting that from the ear. And every time I'm coming out with the hook or Jobson horn, I'm just going to make sure I'm not digging it in too far. So I'm not embedding it against the base of the ear canal or the front or back part of the ear canal and then abrasing it as I'm removing it. And again, do continue watching, because at the end you will see the still images. So I'm just trying to glide the Jobson horn over the roof of the ear canal again, and then I'm going to the front part of the ear canal, so anteriorly, slowly coming out, another sizable chunk. Just like the patient's left ear, I decided to go to the base of the ear canal, because when I did that on the left, a massive chunk came out in one piece, and again you can see there, I managed to get a big piece out. Once more, I'm just gliding it at the base of the ear canal. I've got to be really careful that we just don't apply too much force and bump into the canal wall. I'm just then rotating the curette, almost scooping it over towards the left-hand side to get some purchase. You can see I got a big chunk out there, another chunk, it's just made itself visible. It's hanging out the ear. So the patient has got quite a considerable dip. Once you enter the ear canal, it does incline downwards quite a lot before coming back up. Again, just going a bit further with the Jobson horn now. You can just see how resilient, how stubborn this plug of skin is, this keratosis obturans. So we're chiseling through again, tunneling through, just to the front part of the ear canal, just gliding this, trying to again just separate the skin from the canal wall, and then slowly come back out with the Jobson horn. So got a sizable piece there, I think. These are huge chunks. I'm removing a bit at a time. This video for me illustrates the importance of being competent in all ENT micro instruments. If you're a clinical ear care specialist, you need to be able to be competent in all instruments, because we hardly use any microsuction in this, and quite too often in the UK, I can't speak for anywhere else in the world, the microsuction is obviously it's the gold standard really, it's very important, but I know some specialists that are not trained or unable to use any other instruments apart from microsuction. Using mechanical instrumentations like hooks and scoops does require a bit more skill, but you do need training in it, and strongly urge any clinical ear care specialist in the UK not to just solely rely on suction. There's many contraindications to microsuction. You can't always perform it. So in this case, we've hardly used it because it's just not suitable. So you've got a big tail of skin there, some keratin tails, ribbons of skin, so just using some forceps. Some technologies in the UK that are used to visualize the ear in order to remove wax. You're not physically able to use any other instrument apart from suction the way the device is. It restricts use of hooks and scoops and forceps. So again, another big plug using forceps. So the forceps were doing a lot more in this ear than it was in the patient's original left ear. There's a lot more keratin here. You can see the skin ribbons now. They're very glossy. So I'm getting some good purchase here, some good grip. Again, it's another large chunk of keratin that I've removed. And you would think that we're done, but we've still got loads left, especially for a small ear. I'm just using some microsuction here to help peel away this keratin tail. We're just on the back part of the ear, so there's some adhered wax and skin on this back part of the ear canal. It is quite strongly adhered. I think I'm going to use some drops just in a moment. So we've managed to clear a lot there, but I would still say it's half blocked. So where we are now, if we enter the ear, we're just to the left, directly near the entrance. It's almost like a little blind spot there. And I've managed to get this out of a big, large chunk with microsuction. See, all instruments have their role, have their place. And quite often during a single procedure, I'm using instrumentations in tandem and combination with each other to help me remove the occlusion and blockage. So I've just gone in with a Jobson horn. Now we're going to be careful we don't make contact with the bony part of the ear canal. It's a lot more visible now. So just slowly, you can see how I'm curling this Jobson horn. I'm rotating it whilst I'm in the ear just to avoid the canal wall, and gently scoop this off the back part of the ear canal off the surface. So we're trying to go with the curvature of the ear, so we're curling inwards as we get to the entrance, and that's the natural architecture curvature of the ear. So it's coming in from left to right. So the back part of the ear canal is visible now. The base of the ear canal, there's still a lot of soft keratin and wax, and again, I'm just using the Jobson horn just to lift it. So hang on in, guys, you're doing really well watching for this long. It was one of those long procedures. Sometimes there's no shortcuts. We just have to, and remember the patient's coming with earache as well, so we have to be really, really gentle at the same time. If the patient was asleep or under general local anaesthetic, it could be a lot more direct, if that's the best way. But the patient is awake. We're going to bear that in mind. Their comfort is most paramount importance to me. So I've just put some drops in there just to lubricate this remaining plug of skin and wax. I'm just trying to peel us away from the front part of the ear canal. There's a thick layer of dead skin. And the huge plug out the ear. And as I said at the beginning of the video, it's very likely this is keratosis obturans. When you've got dead skin has got the ability to compress and coil itself. Therefore, one's ear has the ability to house and contain a huge amount of dead skin, as opposed to wax. If there's just so much come out, that it's very unlikely that it's wax, because wax can hold its shape a bit better. It's not as malleable, it's not as flexible, it can't coil. Well, skin can. There's another huge chunk there. So the patient's eardrum's visible, nice and healthy. Just some dead skin around the edge that we're going to remove. Then we're going to use some forceps to help me as well a bit later. Just see how thick this skin is. And this is how keratosis obturans starts. So you've got a layer of dead skin that's died and shedded but hasn't migrated out of the ear. Then you'll get another layer, and you'll get almost like a millefeuille if you're into your pastry and desserts, 1,000 layers of pastry. And it forms into a plug, all these layers, and this plug gets bigger and bigger. It can widen and expand the ear canal. In this case, it hasn't really done that. So quite fortunate. There's one of the hallmarks of keratosis obturans is that you do get an expansion of the bony part of the ear canal. There's probably a slight expansion, but nothing exaggerated. So just some skin near the entrance on the back part of the ear canal wall. We've just got some remaining dead skin at the front part of the ear canal, on the bony part here, and also at the base. So I'm just using a fine end suction probe, but it's really strong and dense. So I think I'm going to use some forceps in a moment to kind of grip onto this and peel away. We've got to be careful with clarinetting when you've got dead skin like this and you're suctioning. The tip of the skin violently flaps at the tip of the suction probe, and it emits a very loud, high-frequency squeal. It's almost deafening, not only for the patient, but also for myself when I'm performing the procedure. So we just kind of stop immediately. So I think I'm going to use some forceps a minute. We're getting at the bottom jaw of the forceps. We're going to glide underneath the dead skin. There's not much margin for error here because we can quite easily graze the bottom of the jaw of the forceps against the bottom of the ear canal, which would be really uncomfortable for the patient. But there is just a minimal gap there. It's going to be really gentle here. I managed to get the jaw, the bottom jaw underneath the skin and lift up and away. Now I've got a bit more to grip onto. I'm going to get myself a better grip and I'm going to just wriggle this skin. As I said, we're not going to get all of this out. It's nearly impossible. I'm just going to get as much out as I can safely. Got some dead skin at the top of the ear, so it's going to use a fine suction probe just to gently peel that away if I can, because it is quite a thick layer. As I said, that skin is not ready to be peeled, it's still tightly adhered. There is a bit of wax still just lurking near the entrance on the roof of the ear canal, so just going to go back in with the suction probe and get this out. And underneath that sits a very thick layer of dead skin again. It's a bit more of a stickier layer. So the patient is going to have their ears cleaned out regularly, advise them to come back in a year. Because of the keratosis obturans, I've advised them to use some sodium bicarbonate drops on a fortnightly basis, which is very good at breaking up skin. So this is different views. I've put a ruler there, it's a 30 centimetre ruler, just to give you, I think that's 12.5 inches, just to give you some perspective of how much debris I removed from both ears.